Want to know what it's like to live a life as a spirit medium? Stay tuned.
Welcome to Leap Into Your Story podcast, where you discover your inner story, break down the process, and meet others who've done it so you can leap into your own story. We interview amazing guests who provide powerful insights that inspire you to get your story told. Be sure to visit our website at leapintoyourstory.com, and while you're there, subscribe and like us via your favorite social media network. Now sit back, get ready to take some notes, and let's get started. This episode of Leap Into Your Story podcast is brought to you by Leap Into Your Story course. Visit leapintoyourstory.com, where you have a guide to get your story told.
I'm Victoria Anderson, and welcome to the Leap Into Your Story podcast, where you discover your inner story, work through the process, and meet others who've done it. We interview amazing guests who provide powerful insights that will inspire you to leap into your own story. Be sure to visit our website at leapintoyourstory.com, and while you're there, subscribe and like us via your favorite social media network. My guest today is Daniel Jackson, backed by popular demand. He's a spirit medium, blogger, podcaster, and now new author. In this episode, we'll be talking about his new book, The New Beginning, My Awakening as a Spirit Medium. So, welcome, Daniel. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Victoria. I appreciate your enthusiasm there.
Yes. So, Daniel, this has been in the works for a while. I know
Yes.
The last time I had you on, you were talking about just starting it, and now it's completed.
Yeah.
So,
I started writing, I think it was in August of last year, so it's been about a year now.
wow. Yes.
Didn't think it was going to take that long, but
Yeah.
I'm not a regular writer, so I didn't know the ins and outs, the ups and downs. Yeah.
Very good. Well, we're delighted that you have completed the book and can share some powerful insights about your journey as a spirit medium. So
Awesome.
let's take us a little bit on that journey of how that started. What are maybe some of the pros and cons? What inspired you to write a book about that? So go ahead and share with our listeners.
Well, I've been on this journey of being a spirit medium since right before I turned 50 years old. And Spirit was testing me to see if I was going to move forward with these abilities. I'd always seen Spirit since I was 3 years old up until, present day. I see so many in a day. It's like being in a room with 1,000 people, except nobody leaves and we'll just keep coming in. And that's still to this day, every single day. It's like walking through the mall and you try to pick out one face. I can't do it because they just come in and I see a face come in, and I get pretty good details on some of them, but some of them they just come in, they turn around and go the other way. It all depends on what they want to do, but that's every single day. Some of them do stop and talk, some of them don't. As I say to people, some spirit want to be seen, most of them don't. But the ones who do want to be seen, people get something from. I see the other ones too. So I see the ones who want to be seen and who don't want to be seen, because I'm able to see into that realm all the time. It never turns off. It never goes away. If someone looks at their wall and their wall is white, I don't see that. I see a white wall, but I also see blue mist in it. And that is me seeing through the veil and me seeing into that realm all the time. And it just never goes away. But I also, if I ask to or concentrate, I can also see into what we call heaven as well. But I focus on the ones who are just here, who are earthbound, because one of the abilities that God gave me is to cross spirit over. So that's what I do. But the reason I wrote this book per se is because spirit brought to me in a message during meditation. They show me things in video and sometimes in form of a cartoon. And this one was in a cartoon. It was a man standing there writing on scrolls. Now, when I'm in meditation, I have it to a point now. I don't have to just sit there and go and all that stuff. I just close my eyes and get myself settled, and then they just start bringing me things. Sometimes I've been in Walmart before with my wife, and she was going into the ladies' room, and I closed my eyes, and they were bringing. As soon as I closed my eyes, I saw a message already playing, like it was already going on. So, I mean, that's the way it happens for me. So I can actually talk to them while the message is coming, and I can talk to them just like this, and I get answered at the same time. So even though the message is playing, I can ask them a question, and they'll answer me yes or no, or they'll tell me something. So they were showing me this man writing on scrolls, and I said, that's interesting. Looks like he's just writing stuff, and I got a yes. And then when I said that, they showed me a piece of paper, and I had my handwriting on it, and I said, what do you want me to write a book or something? And I got yes on my face. And I was like, what am I going to write about? And then I heard in my mind, you. And I was like, what do you mean just you? What can I write about me? And then I heard, we want you to tell your story. And I was like, oh, okay. But then I was also told that they would be bringing me messages, channeled messages for me to write down and to put at the end of the book. So I did. They even told me the title as well, The New Beginning, because the new beginning is not about me, it's about everyone else. So I didn't really know how to write. And I just got into this group of people who do podcasting. And one of the people that I met in that group is you. And I spoke to you and I asked you, I said, how do I write a book? And you just said, pretty much very simple, just write. And I was like, okay. So that's what I did. I just started writing paragraphs, everything that had happened to me chronologically from the very beginning of me seeing spirit since I was 3 all the way up until now, and all the events that took place. And there's a lot of stuff in between the events, and I put that in there. And then about how everything happened to me and for me, because it's not just to me, but it is for me, because this is information that I needed to have in order to find out what's the meaning of this journey. So I put that all in there, and there's a lot of stories in there. I put in some of my favorite reads that I've done. On advice for some people. They said, how about putting some of your readings in there? So I did that as well. And then at the very end, there's a chapter 12. It's called The Basics. And these are the 25 messages that they sent me. And I wrote them down, put them in the book. And then I put it all together. And I had a friend who is also an editor, but she edits children's books. And when I sent her everything, she sent it back to me, and there was only 47 pages there, and almost all my story was gone. And I was like, something's not right here. What did she do? So I have another friend who is an editor and also a ghostwriter, and she's been the ghostwriter for books that have sold well over 1 million copies already. And her name is Lana Makara. And I gave her everything. When I showed her the manuscripts of everything, she said, oh, that's got to be 140, 150 page book. And I was like, really? Well, the other lady made it 47 pages. She looked at it and she said, wow, where's your story? I said, I don't know. So she took it. And then she would edit things, and then she would send it back to us and say, hey, if I missed anything, let me know. So my wife and I would sit at the dining room table, after dinner, and she would read things to me. I go, oh, wait, there's a little bit there. So we'd fix it, and we'd send it back to her, and then she would edit it again, and she'd send it back to us, and everything was fine. So then it came to the point when I had to send the channeled messages. I sent them to her, and she sent them back to me, and I said, why'd you send them back so quickly? She said, because none of them had to be edited. And I was like, And she said, why do you think they didn't have them? Why wouldn't they be edited? I couldn't figure out that either. I mean, I've read everything else you've written down, so I figured it just had to be edited. I said, because it came from a perfect place. That's why. It didn't come from me. That's why. And she said, that's crazy. And she's also a medium too, so she understands it. And yeah, I wrote everything except, I mean, I wrote those other messages, but I just wrote what they told me to write. But everything else I wrote, like I say, I'm not that great of a writer, but my grammar is horrible. But she fixed all that. She took everything and turned it into a book for me. And then, I mean, I have to admit, it's one of the best books I've ever read. But I'm not much of a reader as well either. But yeah, it was a longer process than I thought it was going to be. But I've never written a book before, so I just didn't know.
Yes, it can be overwhelming, and there's a lot of steps, but
Bingo.
you can make it easy if you're consistent.
Yeah.
But,
and I tried to be consistent with everything, and
yes,
and it was actually after my wife was reading the book back to me, I was like, oh, you know what? There's another part in there that I totally forgot about. We got to put that in, and then we had to put that in the middle of some other places in the book. So, but it ended up being about 138 pages, and then, but I didn't think, again, because I'm not a book reader, so I didn't think about all the other parts that are in there. Like you have to put, maybe get some endorsements for the book, and so I did that. And I sent out the book and to some people, and I sent out a lot. Actually, sent it out to quite a few people, but not everybody sent me back an endorsement. It's but enough did.
I did.
Yeah, you did. Yeah. Yeah. So, and so whoever did the endorsements, I guess that's just who was supposed to be in there. The other ones just weren't meant to be in there, and that's fine by me, because that's how things are. But yeah, that, and then I had to do a dedication. So I did a dedication to my cat that I had at the time, Shadow, and by the time we got here, because we moved, I was writing the book out in Delaware. And by the time we got here and started sending things off to the editor, he had passed away at that time. So I made the dedication to him and put a picture of him in there. And but yeah, there's a lot more that just goes on with the writing of a book that I just had no idea of, because again, I'm not a writer. So it was all complete new experience for me. I enjoyed it, but it did take a long time.
Yes, but it's usually worth it.
Yeah.
It's usually worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I mean, now people say, oh, well, you can go on shows and talk about being an author.
Yes.
I can, but I know the struggles that I've gone through, but
well, it's cathartic, because I know sometimes you share kind of traumatic incidents, and somebody needs to hear that somebody else has gone through that with alongside, and you're not the only one. And that was probably when I started writing my memoirs. I'm a paranormal person, and usually I put a lot of paranormal stuff, but to my surprise, people really, I guess, the main connection that they had in my books is the human condition.
Yes,
the story.
Absolutely. And I was just thinking that while you were saying it. Yeah, they want to be able to relate,
right?
And because as my wife will tell me sometimes, even after writing the book and being a spirit medium and stuff like that, and and giving messages all the time, my wife will say in a human way, okay, word of God, it's time to go empty the dishwasher. Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's it. I mean, I'm still a regular person. I still have to go
Right.
and take out the garbage and go to the store and do laundry and do all that stuff.
Yes.
But this is just an added part. And that's how they want to be able to relate to us because they want to know that we're regular people too. We are.
Yes. I guess nobody was relating to the lizard-headed, battle under the pyramid dream I had, or something, way out there. But the kind of the controlling mother, the cheating boyfriend,
Yes. Yeah.
that is what they were like.
Yeah. The
Yes,
gossip. Yeah.
yes,
Yeah. Yeah. I want to get down to the dirt. I don't want to hear about your
yeah.
lizard.
Or I had somebody like that I knew, or yeah, my best friend did that, and blah blah blah. I'm like, hey, what about the other stuff?
Yeah. Yeah. What
No.
about the other stuff?
What other stuff?
What
Well,
about the reason wrote this book for?
yeah,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
premonition about flight TWA and
Yeah, whenever
9/11.
people come up to me and ask me questions, a lot of the times the part of the question is asked, well, what do you do when you're doing this or that? I mean, you're human. And I was like, oh, so you got it. Yeah.
Yes, yes. So yeah, you never know. I mean,
You
to
do
each
never know.
his own, and different people, I guess, what they call it, resonate differently. And
Yes,
the paranormal
absolutely.
people I thought might be, tap more into it. Some of my stories were way out there and they still couldn't relate it, even though they're in the
Yeah.
paranormal. Um,
You know,
but
I find that a lot with paranormal people. I will tell them stories. Like I used to do festivals all the time when I was back in Delaware. We did all these festivals for this company called Illuminate Festivals, and I would go there as a medium and do readings and stuff. But I like to walk around before the show would happen and talk to the other people. And I would tell them about the types of things that I see and hear and feel and smell and even taste, as far as spirit goes. And a lot of times they couldn't relate to me either. And
yeah.
I said, "You don't see spirit?" "No, I don't want to see spirit." "Really?" She said, I get messages and I know I'm being talked to because I hear the voices. And I said, "Yeah, I get that too. But I see who's actually talking to me." "No, I don't see that. I don't want to see that. That would scare me." "But wait a
Wow.
minute.
Wow.
What do you mean it would scare you? You're getting the message, so you're getting it from someone, but I don't want to see them." And I'm like, don't you, if you're talking to your mom on your phone, you get a picture of your mom in your head, but you still want to see your mom and have a conversation with your mom. Yeah, well, think of it that way. But they're dead. Well, not really, but yeah. Yeah, it's just weird. It's just, and there's other things that I have gone through that I don't always talk about to everybody. I do talk about them to people like you and me who have gone through these things. And when I tell them, they say, "No, never had that happen before. Never seen anything like that before." And
Yeah.
so sometimes even with what I would call, or we would call our own people, I can't relate to them either because they
Yeah.
just never experienced it before. So, you know,
And I'll be honest, there's some people who are fakes too.
yeah. Yeah.
Those are the ones you really can't relate to, because
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
you're like, you're actually legit and I'm the fake person. So yeah,
Yeah.
I don't want to know you, kind of thing.
I've had I have a podcast as well called Beyond the Veil with Daniel Jackson. And on that show, I've had people come to me who've asked me to want to be on the show. But unknown to them, the way that I get people on my show is I talk to my spirit guides and they answer me for yes and no answers by touching my face. So I will ask them, is this a good person to have on my show? And they just tell me no. And I say, okay. So I just tell the person, I'm sorry, but can't have you on the show. Well, why not? I said, because you're not telling the truth. And then when we start talking about it, they get into the fact they admit that they're not telling the truth. I said, yeah, that's why I can't have you on my show, because I have people who are on my show who tell the truth and you don't. I don't want to continue to be one of those TV shows or movies that continues to put out misinformation like you are.
Yeah.
And then I say, but I'm going to put you on my list now. And when they say, "What do you mean you're going to put me on the list?" I'm going to say, when people ask me about you, I'm going to tell them not to go to you because you're a liar.
Yeah.
I have a friend who I just met recently. She said, this is her stab list. And I said,
Oh.
stab list? She said, yeah, this is the people that you want to take a knife to, but you really can't because you'll get in trouble too. So I put them on a list. I laughed. I was like, wow, that's okay. That's a little, maybe
Wow.
more information I need to know, but this is the people you will now avoid. So, and
Yeah.
if anybody else asks you about that person, you tell them about they are on the list because this is
Yeah.
what they do. And you go, oh, okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
I have a few
I've
of those
had
people on
my
the
run
list.
in. I've had a few people run in with that were so
Yeah.
fake that, you know,
Yeah.
it was just, I didn't even want to be associated with them.
Yeah. Yeah. I have one person who tried to come on my show, and she's apparently like a famous medium, and she's famous for being on YouTube. And no, she's lying. She is lying her butt off.
Yeah, I suspect a lot of famous ones
Yeah.
are quite legit. Because
Yeah.
you're like, well, how do they get they must be legit, that they're famous. And then it's like,
No,
no, they have a good PR
they
campaign.
do.
Um,
They do. My wife and I watched a show one time on a network called Gaia, and there was these 8 people who did channeling, and each
mm,
time one of them came on, I got a yes and no answer if they were actually doing it, and I got 4 yeses and 4 nos. I
yeah.
turned around to my wife, and every time one would be a no, I said, "This person's not channeling. This
No.
person's not channeling."
Yeah.
Yeah, but they're and the ego part gets in there, and they're making a lot of money off
Mhm.
of people who believe it, and it's a shame. But
Yeah.
I write them down when I come across them, and or if I see one that's doing something, and I know some people who are going to see the show, I will tell them what's going on there, and you shouldn't go see the show because it's a lie, and it's quite a few. It's unfortunate, it's quite a few of them on YouTube, but you know,
What do you do?
yeah,
I don't know.
yeah,
Sometimes people like um, to be fooled. I'll just be
they
honest.
do.
When I was studying tarot, and there was the tarot booths within the whatever the metaphysical shop, I walked down the booths in each one, and it was kind of listening in, and it was almost cookie cutter. Just each one was, telling them BS.
Yeah,
And one of the things that I actually had to stop doing tarot is because they were so used to that bullshit.
yeah,
And they get a real
a real
reading,
reading
it freaks them
freaks them
out.
out. Yeah, scares the shit out of them. Yeah,
Yeah. And so I had too many people that were kind, and I'd have to tell them, I'm like, this is, if you've already been to getting these done, you may be, I don't
surprised.
think you're going to be disappointed, but you're
Yeah,
going to be surprised,
yeah,
because the information, I'm not going to tell you your boyfriend's coming back when they're not,
right. I'm not going to lie
and
to
that
you.
was one of the things that I had heard a lot of, was a
Oh
relationship.
yeah, I hear that a lot about the tarot readings. Because I have a friend who does them, and I had her on my show, and she said, "Yeah, I get these people all the time who want to know if their boyfriends are coming back and all this
Yeah,
stuff." And
that's like the number
that's not the
one.
important part in your life, man. Get
Yeah,
over that. You know?
I know. Well, even my first reading that I ever had, I didn't have to know tarot to know, because that was my question. Okay, that was my question. You had like the 10 of Swords. I don't know if you're familiar with that. That was your outcome card,
Right.
and there's a guy laying on the ground with 10 swords in his back. That's the 10 of Swords. And that tarot reader was all like, yeah, he's coming back. There's a misunderstanding. I'm like, that
Hmm.
looked pretty dead to me.
Yeah. 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 Wake up. Hello. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, as the result, because she did a 5 card spread, I'm like, no way. No way am I believing that, especially
Yeah.
with the 10 of cards with the 10 swords in your back,
Too
dead on
many
the ground.
interpreters out here who can't interpret things very well.
Yeah. Well, supposedly she had a following. Again, it goes back. She had a
There
following,
we go.
and my friend who got me interested in tarot because she knew, or she suspected, I had a natural ability with it. So she,
Right.
had put me in contact with her tarot reader, and yeah, not believing that at all. I was like,
No.
I'm never getting another reading again. But then, as you may have read, because I know, or Terry has read some of my story on how I actually got hooked back into tarot. And
She's read all your books.
Yep. Taken the class because the tarot cards that were given to me that I had no interest in just randomly started to show up in the house.
Right.
They were in the closet, and then they'd be on the living room floor,
Yeah.
So crazy stuff like
Yeah,
that.
that's that type of stuff. You can't make that up.
You cannot make it up. No,
Mm-mm.
at all. And when they ended up under my pillow one night, or one morning, I should say, that was okay. Let me go ahead and check into this, because now you've really removed all the doubt.
Yeah, it's kind of like that comedian Bill Engvall. Here's your sign.
Yes, exactly. That was the final one. The floor in the hallway, you think maybe the cat dropped it out of the closet.
Right.
I put it back, and then the couple weeks later, they're now on my nightstand. I put them back. They're under my pillow. All right.
I had an instance
Message
just
delivered.
Like that. Yeah, I had an instance just like that. I put my car keys down on my bed, and I came back to get my car keys, and they were not there, and I couldn't find out. I just searched through the whole house, retracing all my steps. I came back, but I saw a lump in the middle of my bed. I was like, what the heck is that? I picked up the blanket, I picked up the top sheet, and I picked up the regular bed sheet, and on the mattress was my keys. How would it get
Yes.
under there?
I write about a strange incident with my little duster too. So kind of like that. We have a few strange, almost the same type of instances.
Yeah.
I know, reading the book, the one that kind of really stood out, speaking of, connected and similar incidents, is your wife, and you had an incident with something in the garden with some garden shears. That was,
Yes.
that kind of freaked me out, because
Yeah,
as
that
you know,
was-
I had a similar incident with a knife welding entity in my kitchen, but it looks like, I don't know, is that something happened with her too? With the
Yes, it was all her. But it had to do with me, because of me, because of me being one who crosses spirit over, and me working. I work for God. I do these things for Him, so I'm bringing messages to people for Him. And this entity that was in my house did not want that happening. So what did it go after? It went after something that I loved, which is my wife. And I went. I was talking to my wife. She was out in the garden working. She had a knife in one hand and a garden tool in the other. She would grab these things with the garden tool and cut these things with the knife. And so I said, I'm going to ride my bike over to the store and take this Redbox movie back, plug, whatever, for them, I don't know. And I'll be back in 10 minutes. And I was back in 10 minutes. By the time I got back, my neighbor had come running to me and said, hey, your wife passed out. She's on the back lawn. And I'm trying to wake her up, but she won't wake up. And I get back there, and I'm trying to wake her up. I smacked her right across the face, and she would not wake up. Then he said, you want me to call 911? I said, yes, please. I said, I'm going to try to revive her. And she just wouldn't wake up. The ambulance showed up. The guys, they're checking her out. They're looking at her. And they said, what we need to do is, she's on her stomach. We need to roll her over. And I said, okay. So we said, 1, 2, 3, we're going to roll her over. It was me and these other two guys. And we picked her up and rolled her over. And when we did, the knife she had in her hand was in her abdomen. And he said, Dad, are you ready? But this is, I kind of made a joke of it, but why should I do that? Because I'm just me. But he said, back away from the crime scene, sir. And I said, this isn't a crime scene. It's a gardening accident.
Yeah.
And he said, no, it's a crime scene. And I said, okay. Now the knife had only gone in her about an inch.
Wow.
And it put a cut in
Yeah.
her. And so, but it was in there and it was hanging there. And he just kind of like took it and pulled it out.
Wow.
And then, putting the compression on the wound, but there wasn't a lot of blood coming out, but it did, it knocked her out.
Sure.
They take her to the hospital. And then about one by one, about 6 or 7 police officers showed up and kept questioning me because they wanted to see if I did it. But they had already questioned my neighbor. My neighbor told them I wasn't even there. I left. So, I came back and he was, he saw her fall, so they did an operation on her. They did 2 of them because the guy found actually she got a twofer out of that one. She had a hernia. So the guy, here's a funny part of the story though. I got a sense of humor, I say anything. And the guy said, I saw she had her hernia. So I opened up the wound a little more and I stuck my hand in there and I fixed her hernia. I said, that's crazy, doc. He said, why? I said, man, I've been with her for 4 years and I've yet to get my whole hand up in her. So he just looked at me like, okay, well, and he just went on with his story. And I was like, so he says, you can go back and see her. And I said, okay. So I did. But I had a cop. I said, when I was at my home, I said, I'm going to go to the hospital now because I'm tired of telling this story to you cops. I said, I've been telling the same, it's just the same story. Well, we got to make sure it's correct. And because every time one would show up, I have to tell the whole story over again. I said, you know what? My wife's at the hospital. She just got a knife in her. I'm going to the hospital. Oh, well, we got to send a police officer with you. Why? I said, oh, well, we had the lead investigator. He's got to come here, but he's on another case. So whatever. And I get to the hospital. And she's actually waiting in the waiting room with me. And I'm talking to her, just talking to her. And then when the doctor said, you can go see her, I said, oh, okay. I got up and she goes, where are you going? I said, I'm going to see my wife. She said, no, you got to wait for the lead investigator. He's got to come here and ask you questions. I looked at her and I said, am I under arrest? She said, no. I said, have a great day. I'm going to see my wife. I walked back there and talked to my wife. I said, because you're not going to stop me doing that. And I talked to her and I asked her, and she comes out of anesthesia and looks at me. And I was like, you okay, honey? And that's when she looked around. She says, is there anybody else in here? I said, no. She said, she pulled me close. And that's when she told me, she said, I saw a dark entity come at me and it grabbed me. It turned me around and it pushed me forward. I said, what? And she said, it pushed me forward and it grabbed my arm, trying to push the knife into my abdomen. And I was holding back and it kept trying to push the knife. So it pushed me. She said, but one of your angels, Helen, grabbed a hold of me of my other arm and spun me around. And then when I fell, I still fell, but I fell the opposite way. Wow. She said, if I went the other way, I'm sure it would have killed me. But Helen saved me. And I was like, there you go, right there. So she said, how bad is it? I said, it only went in an inch, but the doctor told me he fixed a hernia that you had as well. And she said, oh, okay. So, but yeah, so that was the story of that. But yeah, this entity did not like me. And we felt this presence in our basement for a long time. We had a basement in our home, and we stored a lot of things down there, food and stuff. So every time my wife and I would, prior to that incident, go down the basement, I'd have to kind of get myself, in a mode that, okay, I'm going to go down the basement. I'm going to go get this. I'm going to get out of the basement, because this thing, as soon as you walk in, it's like walking into a bar with a smoky broom, and you could just feel it on you. And it was just horrible. So, and that was for about 6 months. And this was during the period of when I was finding out I was this, but I didn't know, but so much was happening that, we didn't know exactly what was going on until afterwards, when I finally found, okay, I went to a bunch of mediums and I found out this is what I am. And then I accepted my ability. And then when I did, I was able to change things even in my own home. And then, And I have these, what we would call archangels, not men with wings, who protect me from everything. So now I'm completely protected all the time, but I had to say yes to this and accept my abilities in order to have that protection all the time. So now that I do that, nothing can touch me or my wife. So I even me, I can walk into any haunted house, and sometimes you go in, they scratch you and stuff like that. They can't touch me.
Mm.
So, but anybody who's connected to me is also untouchable, including my wife, my pets, that type of thing. But yeah, that was a very horrifying experience to go through. I mean, especially because I was only a spectator at that point. I had to watch it happen. So yeah, not the most pleasant thing, but it was something that I needed to put into the book to explain. Like, I'm a person too. I experience things as well, but I don't experience things like that anymore because that type of thing has gone away now because I'm protected all the time. I know people who have to do protection type of, I don't want to call them spells, but this is a protection force that they put around themselves every morning when they wake up and stuff like that. And so they can get through their day. I don't have to do that ever. I'm protected all the time. But I do recommend that for people because even though, I have these archangels around me all the time, but I have them around me so that they protect me from negative energies so I can cross other positive energies over into the light because not everyone that stays here earthbound is negative. They just made a choice that they thought was best for them. But now they come to me and ask me to cross them over. But the negative ones do come around me all the time, but they can't touch me. So I do recommend that to people. If you feel these types of negative energies around you, feels like someone's pushing on your shoulders or that type of thing, absolutely do some type of grounding work is what it is, and try to help yourself with that. But me, don't have to do it.
Yeah, I agree. And it was quite the eye opener because I think we were talking about a lot of bullshit out there, but one of them is,
Like that incident you had at
things
your home
they
too.
don't exist and they do.
Yeah, like that
They do.
incident you had at your home when you got to New Mexico. I
Yeah,
mean,
exactly. I
you
mean,
had to take control.
I had to take control. They were
It
giving
wasn't
me
easy.
black eyes. They were
Right.
giving me black eyes.
Wasn't
With
easy,
the
was
door,
it?
I'd walk through a doorway and then they'd slam the door in my
Slam a door in
face.
your face. Yeah.
Yep. I'd go by the kitchen cupboard and they'd come and swing the door open.
They are pure energy. They can manipulate other energies as well, because
Yes,
everything does have energy in it. So they're able to do that, especially these negative ones, because
yes,
they're more powerful than the other ones.
yes. And they're just kind of big bully energy.
Yeah.
And just like any bully,
Yes.
you have to stand up to them.
Yeah.
You have to stand up to them. And if you're
Yeah.
really lucky, you get to kick their ass on some level.
Yeah. Like earlier when we were talking, I'm writing this new book called Encounters with Them, and spirit come up to me and say things. And I was saying to you, I have these two people come up, and one was like a child, and he was like, maybe teenager. And he came up to me and said to me, "I'm going to punch you in the face." And then I told him he couldn't. And he was like, "Oh, yes." And he tried. And when he tried, he couldn't move his arm to get to punch me in the face. And I said, "You can't." And he's like, "I can." I said, "Yeah, I'm protected by these archangels. You see them around me." And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "So you can't do it. So go away."
Yes.
That's it. And they get even angrier at me because they can't do it. And I mean, I hate to do it, but I laugh at them. I say, "I told you couldn't do it. You don't listen to me, but you're a negative energy. Why would you listen to me? Because you don't listen to anybody. You only listen to yourself." So
Well, they think they're like, what are you
they
going to
can
do
do
about
anything.
it? What are you going
Yeah.
to do about it?
Yeah. What are you going to
That's
do?
kind
Just
of
like
like their
people here.
energy. What are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
I'm like, watch.
Yeah. Stand up for myself. That's what I'm going to do about it. So yeah.
I
And that's
also
what you have to
threaten
do.
that, my dream time is very powerful. And I tell them, I says, I'll go into your world.
Right.
I will go into your world and I will mess you up. You
Yeah.
want to come into mine? I'll go into yours.
I had an experience with that in my book where my archangels, I call them my archangels because
Mhm.
they are. How many do I have with me? all of them, and there's thousands. They asked me one time, or for like a week, to go into the deeper, darker realms of the earthbound spirit realm because they wanted me to try to cross them over. But what they really wanted me to do was experience pure negative energy that were trying to battle me, in a sense, where trying these energies were saying things to me, but what they wanted me to learn is to never give up. And so I did. So yeah, I went in and I saw these things that we would consider monsters. Some of them, they looked that way because they had been there so long, but some of them looked that way because that's just what they look like where they come from. When I went into that, because I did it during meditation, but I was just going through, walking around, I saw this one standing there, and I had a little boy with it, and the little boy was holding on to this being's leg and peeking around from it to look at me, but like scared of me, because spirit doesn't see me like they see everyone else. They see your body and they see your frame and they see the light inside of you, but they just see the light with me. That's all they see is a light. And so this thing was kind of like hiding from me and stuff. And I could hear the woman, because it was a woman who was hiding with, saying, "You don't have to be afraid of that." And I even said that. I said, "Yeah, you don't have to be afraid. It's okay, little boy." And she said, "Don't talk to my kid." And I said, "Whatever, lady." And so I kept walking, and then these things came up to me, and one of them said, "What are you doing here, Daniel?" Knew my name.
Oh,
And I said, "I'm here because my friends, the archangels, want me to come here and cross people over." And they said, "You're not allowed to cross people over here." I said, "Yes, I am." I said, "They want me to do that, so that's what I'm going to do, because maybe you don't want to cross over." And they said, "Why would I want to see that guy?" They were talking about God. And I immediately knew what it was. And I said, "Because he's your father." "Oh, he's not my father." I said, "Everyone's created from him. So you can maybe want to think that now, but so I'm going to look around here and see if I can cross anybody." And they said, "We want you to get out of here." I said, "You want me to get out of here, but you can't make me get out of here. And you know that." And they said, "Whatever." I mean, they talk just like we do. And I was like looking around. I couldn't find anybody who wanted to cross over, but I went through the experience and I never gave up. I don't let these things try to intimidate me, or even intimidate me at all, because they're just entities, just like other entities are. So some are just not going to be as nice, but I didn't let it get to me. And that's what they wanted me to get across to me, because I come across people who I do interviews for on shows, and they try to attack me as well, and I don't let it happen. And then they get even angrier with me because I don't let it bother me. I just act like I am right now, and they get and they want me to engage with them and get into an argument with them, but I won't, because I don't have to get angry over someone else's anger. I don't let it bother me. So I did that for a week. I found some later on who wanted to go and stuff like that, but it was not as many as when I'm on the outer edges, who, when I cross spirit over, I cross them over by the thousands, because these are just people who they haven't been there long enough to go down into this deeper realm. So they're still wanting to they know they're not supposed to be there. They know this is, and I always tell them, "You've been there too long. You're not meant to be there anymore. You're meant to go home." And I tell them how to do that. But yeah, they wanted me to experience this to get some practice in. So I'm very well versed. Yeah.
yes. Well, a similar experience too, because in my third book, The Mastering the Paradox, I talk about that kind of a similar incident. And because the place that you couldn't see, it was just pure darkness, you're the light. And
Oh boy.
And they were just attacking, because when you're in a certain environment and then something totally different, you're considered a threat.
Yes. Yeah. They don't like me. I see them at nighttime very frequently. When I'm laying in bed, I see negative energies come up. They're always glowing red. And I'll see them first come in, maybe a palish blue, and then all of a sudden they just turn red. And then they look at me and they'll say something to me, because they know what I am. And I'll say, Just go away. Don't bother me. You can't influence me. You're not going to get any energy from me, even though you're going to try. But just go away." And then they persist, and then they start making the evil faces and trying to scare me. I said, "You don't scare me. You're not bothering me. Just go away." And then and then they'll do something else, and I'll say, "Look, I'm going to give you another chance here. I'm telling you, you want to cross over, I'll cross you over. But if you don't want to do that and you're just going to try to intimidate me or something, if you don't go away, I'm going to get my friends here to mojo your butt out of here." And they look at me and they go, "What?" And then I say, "Hey, fellas." And then the next thing you know, I'll see these globs of white light come out of just nowhere and
Wow.
attack these things. And I see the things go, "Ugh, ugh." And I go, I gave you the opportunity to leave, but you won't because you're negative energy. You're always going to try to force your negativity on, because that's what people do. And you wouldn't go away, but you're going away now. Have a great day. And then they go, "Oh," and they turn around and they leave. But then another one comes in 20 minutes later. So it's a vicious circle. But I know I'm always protected. When I go to sleep at night or about to go to sleep, I say thank yous. I give thanks to everything that is positive in my life. And I do this every single night. And they tell me, my guides tell me I don't have to because it's just me being me, but I do it anyway because it makes me feel good. And I do want to thank them. But when I get done the process, in the distance, I see spirit around me all the time. And then I see my archangel standing around me all the time in a circle. But I also see these two eyes. And these two eyes are about the size of what you would see like back in the day in those movies when they had King Kong movies, and he'd be looking in the windows as he's climbing up the Empire State Building. You see these two big giant eyes. Well, I
Right.
see them in my room every single night. I try to talk to them and get them to look at me, but they really never do. I've only had it happen on a couple of occasions. But when I see them, I see one eye here and one eye here, and each one of these eyes is probably like this big. And
Wow.
it's just two of them sitting there. And what they are doing is I see them scanning the room. I see the pupils of the eyes moving all around.
Mm.
And they're scanning the room for negative energies. And if they spot one, then they take care of it. But I see that every single night
Wow.
before I go to bed. Yeah, so it's like watching King Kong. But sometimes they close in and then I can see the face of who's actually doing it. And it's always a different one every night. And then sometimes other angels, the ones I know and their names and what they actually look like, I see them as well too. Like I see Archangel Michael doing it a lot. A lot per se, where maybe 4 or maybe 5 times a year sometimes. But as soon as I see it, I recognize, I know who it is. And when I ask him for an answer, because they are being occupied doing that, he actually won't answer me. Another one will touch me and say, "Yes, that's Michael doing it."
Hmm.
Yeah,
Wow.
crazy.
Yeah. No.
I think I
Interesting.
put that in the book.
Interesting.
Yeah, I
Very
think it's
interesting.
if it's not in this book, it'll be in another one. But yeah,
Yeah, definitely.
people want to know.
Well, I think we've just about come to the end of our interview today. So tell us, Daniel, where can we find more about you? Where can we find your book?
I
Tell
know.
us about where we can find more of
That
you.
cool. That's a cool cover there. It's a man
I like
walking
it.
into the white light.
Mhm.
It looks like me. It's not
Yeah.
me. It's not me. We actually had to. We tried to take some pictures, but just couldn't get anything going right. So we actually licensed this picture, and we can
Nice.
use it for as long as we want to.
Nice.
And speaking of that book, it's Daniel Jackson, The New Beginning, My Awakening as a Spirit Medium. They can find that on Amazon. It's in paperback. It's also as an ebook. The ebook, I think, is like $6.49. The paperback is $8. Why do I sell it for $8? I make about $2 off that. And I'm not trying to sell 1 million books to make $2 million, but I sure would like to help 1 million people. So that's the reason why we sell it for such a low price. I'm not trying to be so famous because I want to be on a bestsellers list. I would like to be on a bestsellers list because I'm helping people, and that's what the important part is. So they can find that on Amazon. All they have to do is put in the search bar, Daniel Jackson, The New Beginning, My Awakening as a Spirit Medium. You'll see that picture come up with this man walking into a bright white light. It's about 138 pages long. It's my story chronologically, and it's 25 channeled messages from God of what he wants us to know to help us to try to become better people, to help us to help other people to become better people, to become a better race of people, because there's only one race of people, and that's the human race. And he wants us to get things going correctly because we're not doing so well. And they can also find me if they want to book a reading with me at www.spiritmediumdaniel.com. It's one long word. They can book a reading with me, or they can book a telephone call with me. Again, if they feel as though they have these types of things that are happening to them, maybe these types of abilities, and they're not sure where to go, what to do with them, they can call me. I will verify the fact that they actually have them, because as soon as I see their call, and as soon as I get it, I get touched for yes or no if they have it or not. Some people just have a fascination with it, and they want to have this, but people want the cool part of my gift. They don't want everything else that goes along with it. So I will verify, and if they do, then I will talk them through it, see where they want to go next. But if it needs to be something more of a conversation, then I'll have them book a reading with me, and then we'll talk for probably 3 to 4 hours sometimes, because they need to know what's entirely involved in that, and then I'll set them on their way. And when they do a reading with me, a reading will cost online. If they do a Zoom call, it's $100. If they do it in person with me, it's $120. Sometimes that reading will last 2 to 3 hours. I don't charge them anything more than that, because it's not important for me to make money at it. It is important for me to get the information to the people so that they can get some peace and clarity in their minds, so in their lives. So that's what I try to do. So they can find me there at www.spiritmediumdaniel.com, or if they want to watch my podcast called Beyond the Veil with Daniel Jackson, hey, and so I start off the show. I don't know why I started doing that, but I just do. But that's at it's www.beyond-the-veil.com. And we have all kinds of people on there who've had experiences like you and I have had, and supernatural and metaphysical. I have people on there who do tarot, and people who are into. I met one woman who not only does she do tarot, but through the tarot reading, she will put together some types of these oils to help people as well, and she gets that from the tarot reading as well. So yeah, tarot people, UFO people, health and wellness, everybody. We try to bring what I say is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, because I only have people who are telling the truth on my show, because if they're not telling the truth, they don't make it on there. So yeah, they can find us at Beyond the Veil, and we're on YouTube as well for that. But if you go on the website, there's links on there so you can listen to the show or watch the show. Like I said, it's on YouTube, but we're all on the big ones: Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, all that. So yeah, you can find me pretty much everywhere. If you can't find me on YouTube, I mean, I'm also Spirit Medium Daniel or Beyond the Veil with Daniel Jackson on Facebook as well.
Awesome.
That's it.
Well, Daniel, it's always a pleasure to have you on. We're definitely looking forward to your next book, as well as sharing your fantastic insights today. It's been very interesting, and again, always something new to learn. And do want to thank you for tuning into the Leap Into Your Story podcast, where you discover your inner story, work through the process, and meet others who've done it, so you can be guided to your own journey to writing your story. So to remember to visit our website at leapintoyourstory.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're there, subscribe and like us via your favorite social media network. We are looking forward to seeing you next time here on the Leap Into Your Story podcast.
Thank you for tuning into the Leap Into Your Story podcast, where you discover your inner story, break down the process, and meet others who've done it so you can leap into your own story. Remember to visit our website at leapintoyourstory.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're there, subscribe and like to us via your favorite social media network. We're looking forward to seeing you next time on the Leap Into Your Story podcast.